أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء نحوا سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يخشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي صحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
एक और सलवात अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद। बारे दीगर नारे सलवात। बर हबीब खुदा ख़त्मुल अंबिया नारे सलवात। सलाम के लिए मैं दरख्वास्त करता हूँ जनाब इकबाल गांजी साहब से कि वो आएँ और मौला की बारगाह में अपना हदिया पेश करें। बर मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात।
किस तरह अपनी तबाही की खबर ले जाए, किस तरह अपनी तबाही की खबर ले जाए। पास ज़ैनब के बचा क्या है जो घर ले जाए। किस तरह अपनी तबाही की खबर ले जाए। ले गई बाप का साया तो سروں سے ان کے لے گئی باپ کا سایہ تو سروں سے ان کے اب یتیموں کو ہوا چاہے جدھر لے جائے پاس زینب کے ایک دو گھر کے چراغوں کو بجھا دے لیکن ایک دو گھر کے چراغوں کو بجھا دے لیکن چھین کر کوئی نہ امید سحر لے جائے پاس زینب کے پاؤں زخمی ہیں تو راہوں میں ہے پتھر کانٹے پاؤں زخمی ہیں تو راہوں میں ہے پتھر کانٹے جان عابد کو کہاں تک یہ سفر لے جائے پاس زینب کے بولی ہونگی علی اکبر کو سجا کر زینب بولی ہونگی علی اکبر کو سجا کر زینب چاند کو میری کسی کی نہ نظر لے جائے پاس زینب کے بولی سوچتی ہوگی یہ بانو میرا بچ جائے سہاگ سوچتی ہوگی یہ بانو میرا بچ جائے سہاگ حرملا مجھ سے میرا لخت جگر لے جائے پاس زینب کے رکھ کے آہوں کے سلگتے ہوئے اس مقتل سے رکھ کے آہوں کے سلگتے ہوئے اس مقتل سے لاش بچوں کی کہ شبیر کا سر لے جائے پاس زینب کے شاعری کی میری معراج یہی ہوگی نذیر شاعری کی میری معراج یہی ہوگی نظیر، ذکر سرور میں مجھے موت اگر لے جائے، پاس زینب کے بچہ کیا ہے جو گھر لے جائے۔ صلوات اللہم صلی علی۔
جزاک اللہ۔ یہ تھے جناب اقبال گانجی صاحب۔ سلام مرسی کے لیے میں درخواست کرتا ہوں جناب حسن جعفری صاحب سے کہ وہ آئیں اور مولا کی بارگاہ میں ہدیہ پیش کریں۔ بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔
ایک مرتبہ اور درود بھیجیے محمد وآل محمد۔
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل
خدا جانے خدا کا حال، محبوب خدا جانے، سبھی ہیں بس خدا والے، انہیں کیوں کر جدا جانے، سبھی ہیں بس خدا والے، انہیں کیوں کر جدا جانے، محمد ہیں علی ہیں فاطمہ شبیر و شبر ہیں، محمد ہیں علی ہیں فاطمہ شبیر و شبر ہیں، انہی پانچوں کو کیوں سونپی خدائی، یہ خدا جانے، انہی پانچوں کو کیوں سونپی خدائی، یہ خدا جانے، خدا جانے۔ درود بھیجیے محمد و آل محمد۔ ہری ہے شاخ تمنا بھی جلی تو نہیں، او جگر کی آگ لگی ہے مگر بجھی تو نہیں، وہ تیغ ظلم سے گردان شہید اعظم کی وہ تیغ ظلم سے گردان شہید اعظم کی کٹی ہے برسر میدان مگر جھکی تو نہیں ہری ہے شاخ. ایک درود بھیج دو.
اللہم صلی علی محمد وآلہ محمد.
سلام کے چند اشعار آپ کی خدمت. جو راہ بر نہ ملے راستہ نہیں ملتا بغیر آل نبی کے خدا نہیں ملتا. جو راہ بر نہ ملے راستہ نہیں ملتا. اور در نجف پہ جھکا کر جبین تو دیکھو در نجف پہ جھکا کر جبین تو دیکھو اس آستان سے ساحل کو کیا نہیں ملتا. جو راہ بر نہ ملے راستہ نہیں ملتا. اور علی کا ذکر ہے ذکر رسول ذکر خدا. علی کا ذکر ہے ذکر رسول ذکر خدا. کسی کے نام سے یہ سلسلہ نہیں ملتا. جو راہ بر نہ ملے راستہ نہیں ملتا. احد میں بدر میں خیبر میں فتح کا احد میں بدر میں خیبر میں فتح کا سوا علی کے کوئی دوسرا نہیں ملتا. جو راہ بر نہ ملے راستہ نہیں ملتا. اور پڑے جو وقت پکاریں رسول بھی جس کو پڑے جو وقت پکاریں رسول بھی جس کو علی سا کوئی بھی مشکل کشا نہیں ملتا، جو راہ بر نہ ملے راستہ نہیں ملتا۔ برابری تو علی کی بہت سے کرتے ہیں، برابری تو علی کی بہت سے کرتے ہیں، مگر کسی کا کوئی معجزہ نہیں ملتا، جو راہ بر نہ ملے راستہ نہیں ملتا۔ اور حسین ڈھونڈنے نکلے ہیں لاش اکبر کی، حسین ڈھونڈنے نکلے ہیں لاش اکبر کی، اور نظر میں نور نہیں راستہ نہیں ملتا، اور گلے ہزار کٹے حق کی راہ میں لیکن، گلے ہزار کٹے حق کی راہ میں لیکن، اور چھجا جو تیر سے ایسا گلا نہیں ملتا، اور سکینہ باپ سے ملنے چلی ہے مقتل میں، سکینہ باپ سے ملنے چلی ہے مقتل میں، اندھیرا بن ہے پدر کا پتہ نہیں ملتا، اور اٹھائے دین خدا کے لیے جو اتنے ستا، اٹھائے دین خدا کے لیے جو اتنے ستا، کوئی بھی عابد بیمار سا نہیں ملتا، کوئی بھی عابد بیمار سا نہیں، آخری شعر ہے، اور مجاہد ہم کو وہ مجلس بھلی نہیں لگتی، مجاہد ہم کو وہ مجلس بھلی نہیں لگتی، جہاں پہ ذکر شہ کربلا نہیں ملتا، جو راہ بر نہ ملے فاتحہ۔ عابد کو جب یزید سے بابا کا سر ملا، سر کیا ملا کہ مرہم زخم جگر ملا۔ مدت کے بعد باپ کے سر سے پسر ملا، ماہ سفر میں شام سے حکم سفر ملا، ماہ سفر میں شام سے حکم سفر ملا۔ دیکھا جو اہل بیت نے فرق جناب کو، تاروں نے آ کے گھیر لیا ماہتاب کو، تاروں نے آ کے گھیر لیا ماہتاب کو۔ او بہنوں نے باری باری لیا گود میں وہ سر، زینب نے ہونٹ رکھ دیے بھائی کے ہونٹ پر، دریا بہا کے اشک کے بولی وہ نوح گر، بھیا پھری ہے آپ کی ہم شیر در بدر، بھیا پھری ہے آپ کی ہم شیر در بدر۔ اور جس روز سے جدا ہوئی میں دم سے آپ کے، نیزوں سے پشت زخمی ہے دل غم سے آپ کے، نیزوں سے پشت زخمی ہے دل غم سے آپ کے۔ بھیا ہماری تم کو خبر ہے کہ یا نہیں، بھیا ہمارے سر سے ردائیں اتار لی، بھیا تمہاری بہنیں یہاں رسی میں بندھی، بھیا تمہاری بیٹی کے ہیں سیلیاں لگی، بھیا تمہاری بیٹی کے ہیں سیلیاں لگی۔ خندہ ہمارے حال پہ اس دم شریر ہے، بھیا ہم ایک رسی میں 12 اسیر ہیں، بھیا ہم ایک رسی میں 12 اسیر ہیں۔ اور 10واں بھی 20واں بھی ہوا قید ہی میں ہاں، بھیا تمہارا فاتحہ بھی ہم نہ کرنے پا، کتنا کہا کہ یا کوئی بھائی کے سر کو لا، پر کیا شقاوت ان کی یہ خواہ تمہیں سنائے، پر کیا شقاوت ان کی یہ خواہ تمہیں سنائے۔ اور جب فاتحہ کا آپ کے ہم نام لیتے ہیں پانی بھی اس دن ہم کو یہ ناری نہ دیتے ہیں پانی بھی اس دن ہم کو یہ ناری نہ دیتے ہیں اور روئی یہ بین کر کے جو ہی بنت مرتضی لکھا ہے تھر تھرا گیا فرق شہ خدا پیدا ہوئی گلوئے بریدہ سے یہ صدا زینب خاموش باش کے اب عرش ہل گیا زینب خاموش باش کے اب عرش ہل گیا اب یہ بتاؤ شاہ ولایت کے واسطے کچھ بد دعا تو کی نہیں امت کے واسطے کچھ بد دعا تو کی نہیں امت کے واسطے واری گئی میں اونٹ ہمارے نہ اب بڑھا بھیا کا سر کہاں ہے منگا کر مجھے دکھا آیا جو سر تو بیبیوں سے بولی لوگو سر کھولو اور ہائے حسینہ کا غل مچاؤ سر کھولو اور ہائے حسینہ کا غل مچاؤ مقتل کی سمت زینب دلگیر جاتی ہے ارے بھائی کے دفن کرنے کو ہم شیر جاتی ہے بھائی کے دفن کرنے کو ہم شیر جاتی ہے عابد کو جب یزید سے
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Tonight is the second in the Arbaeen series of majalis in which we commemorate 40 days post the martyrdom of Imam Hossein ibn Ali alayhi salam, his family and his noble companions. Salamullahi alayhim ajma'in. Salawat please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We recognize the sponsors for tonight's program, which is the family of Dr. Asad Sadiq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept their a'mal in these holy days and nights of Arbaeen. We remember their marhumeen, your marhumeen, and the marhumeen of all mu'mineen and mu'minat with a Suratul Fatiha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. As-salatu was-salamu ala khayril maghdubi alayhim. In this Arbaeen commemoration, we also remember those who are in need of dua for their health, safety, and protection in all areas of the world. As you saw when you were walking into the hall, we had the live stream for the Arbaeen walk, pilgrims in the millions, the largest peaceful gathering known to man. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them with safety and health in their walk. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless those za'ireen that are commemorating Arbaeen in dangerous areas as with safety as well, insha'Allah ta'ala. We recite verse number 62 of Surah An-Naml together 5 times. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amman yujibul mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. Amman yujibul mudtarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ وَيَجْعَلُكُمْ خُلَفَاءَ الْأَرْضِ أَإِلَٰهٌ مَّعَ اللَّهِ قَلِيلًا مَّا تَذَكَّرُونَ الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد. Mu'mineen, for those who are just joining us and for those who are online, let me just acquaint you with our Arbaeen series. This series goes as follows. We started yesterday, inshallah. The programs are going to continue until Thursday night. Tomorrow's program begins after Salat al-Maghribain, like tonight. Keep in mind though, for Wednesday, being the day of Arbaeen, we are going to also have A'mal during the day of Arbaeen, which means that the majlis is going to begin with A'mal at 7 o'clock before Salat al-Maghribain. We look forward to your participation then, and as well on Thursday, which is going to be as usual after Salat al-Maghribain. The next series of majalis after Arbaeen is going to be during the time of the 28th of Safar, in which we commemorate the passing of none other than our holy Prophet Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, as well as his grandson Imam Hassan ibn Ali alayhi salatu wa salam, salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. These majalis are going to be September 14th, 15th, and 16th. So this is next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. These are going to be recited by Sheikh Fayaz Jafar. We look forward to your participation. If you're interested in sponsoring any of these majalis, be it for this Arbaeen, be it for the 28th of Safar, please speak with me, speak with any of us, or see me at the desk, and inshallah we can facilitate that moving forward. Other announcements: the Bibi Sakina daycare of Sadiq School has begun enrollment. It's going to start September 15th. If you have kids that are aged 2.5 or 3 years old, again, it's 4 up to 4. You speak with me and inshallah we'll get you more information. You can visit their website, sadiqschool.com, for more information. Their registration form is on their website. There is an open house. So I know sometimes seeing is believing. You want to take a look at the daycare, meet the faculty, go over their Montessori-styled curriculum. This open house is going to be Sunday, September 10th. So today's Monday. This coming Sunday, inshallah, is going to be the open house, so take advantage. That's 11 to 12. Meet everybody in person, and then inshallah you can make your decision. Also on their Sadiq School website, if you're interested to enroll your kids in an Islamic school up to grade 3, that information is available for you as well. And finally, our Sunday school, Jafariya School, is going to start in 2 weeks on September 17th, along with an orientation for parents. You can visit jafariyaschool.com for more information. Mu'mineen, at this time I request that you silence your phones. Parents, please ensure that your children are seated next to you throughout the duration of the majlis. And I request you all to stand and move forward closer to the minbar as I invite our respected guest scholar, Maulana Sayyid Hossein Al-Qazwini, to recite tonight's majlis in commemoration of Arbaeen with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Thank you. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله صلى الله عليك يا سيدي يا ابن رسول الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. For every person, their family is their base. It is their support. Your family is your backbone. Your family is your comfort area. When everyone fails you, friends, neighbors, your family doesn't fail you. Your family will always be there for you. No matter how many enemies you have, no matter how many problems you're going through, you can always come back to your family and you can rely on them for support, for love, for nurture. However, not all family members are supportive. Not all of them are loving and nurturing. There are some family members that cause us a lot of pain and bring us a lot of agony and cause us a lot of trouble. In this case, what do? If we have family members that are causing us misery, they are causing our life to be unhappy, causing us a lot of headaches, what do? On the one hand, Islam tells us not to cut off our ties with family members, close relatives. Al-Rahim, it is forbidden, it is haram to cut off ties. Qat'u al-Rahim is forbidden in Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ يَصِلُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلْ. Allah praises those who have close ties with their kin. He says those who have close ties with whom Allah has ordered them. يَصِلُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلْ. Allah has ordered them to have close ties with their kin. Of course, this verse can also be talking about Ahlul Bayt, salamullah alayhim, to have close ties with the Ahlul Bayt. So on the one hand, Islam tells us not to cut off ties with family members, to have close ties, especially with parents, especially if they are parents. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. Allah has decreed that you shall not worship other than Him, and kindness to parents. Is there anything greater than Tawheed in Islam? The virtue of Tawheed, of worshipping none other than Allah Azza wa Jal. See what comes after. Not salah, not fasting, not hajj, not khums, but kindness to parents. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. And to show kindness to parents. إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبَرَ أَحَدُهُمَا أَوْ كِلَاهُمَا. If they reach old age, one of them or both of them, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ. Do not say the word uff to parents. The Imam, in giving the tafsir of the verse, he says if there was a word even smaller than uff, even minor than uff, it would have been mentioned in the Quran. But there is nothing. There's nothing more minor than this. Even to say the word uff out of agony or being disturbed, being interrupted by parents, don't even say the word uff. وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. And do not shout at them. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. And say to them soft words. Speak to them softly. وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. And lower your wings for them in humility, in kindness. وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. And say, oh Allah, have mercy upon them the way they raised me as children. So this is on one hand. On one hand, Islam emphasizes on having close ties to kin and not cutting off ties. On the other hand, what if these family members are toxic? They could be parents, they could be siblings, they could be children, they could be aunts and uncles. What if they're causing us agony and pain and misery and distress and anxiety? What do we do? Are we forced to handle this agony and pain? Do we have to handle it? How much do we have to handle? What's the limit? Where do we draw the line? Where do we say enough is enough? I can no longer tolerate this abusive behavior from my relatives, from my family members. What do? Do we cut off ties from our family members? There are some people that opt to cutting off ties. They say, khalas, enough is enough. I've had enough of this sibling, of my brother or sister, or my father, my mother, or my cousin, my uncle. Enough is enough. I will delete this person from my account. This person will no longer exist in my life. Khalas. They change their number, they delete, they block. Some opt to moving out of the house, out of their parents' house, because they know they can no longer tolerate abusive behavior from their parents. So they say, I will move out. Or I will move to another city. Here in the West, this is the easiest thing to do. And I'm sure that you've seen this. People move out over the smallest fight, the smallest argument. Children move out. They say, khalas, I don't need to tolerate this abusive behavior from my mother, from my father. No one commands me. No one can judge me or command me. I will move. And it's very normal to see a son not speaking to his father for 5 years. 2 brothers are not speaking for 10 years. This is something very normal here in the West. It's not a shock to see family members that don't speak, that haven't seen one another in years. But is this acceptable? Does Islam accept this? That we delete certain family members, even if they're abusive, even if they're toxic, and they portray toxic behavior. Is this acceptable or not? And I get this question all the time. That Sayyid, if I have a toxic family member, a father or a mother or a sibling, a sister or a brother that are being toxic, that are being abusive, and they're damaging my life, can I delete them? Can I block them? Can I stop speaking to them? What is my obligation? Tonight, my dear friends, we will attempt to answer this question, inshallah. Wa sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. First of all, who is a toxic family member? What do we mean by toxic? Someone that displays Toxic behavior. What do we mean by this? Toxic behavior is anyone who displays abusive behavior. Not necessarily physical abuse. No. I don't mean that your father physically abuses you or your mother physically abuses you or that you have a family member that physically abuses you. No. Sometimes there is something that is worse than physical abuse, and that is emotional abuse, verbal abuse. Some people can be very abusive verbally, emotionally. For example, they make fun of your appearance. So we have some family members, they make fun of our appearance. Your weight, for example. There's some people, they're overweight, or they could be obese. There are family members that make fun of them, ridicule them for their weight, for their looks, their hair, their job maybe. They constantly ridicule them. That this is how much you weigh, you need to lose weight, you don't fit in these clothing, you need to go to the gym. This is abusive. This is verbally abusive behavior that is portrayed by certain family members. Or, for example, they criticize you for being single. You're 30, 35, and you're still not married. No one is accepting to marry you. They criticize you for being single. And sometimes it's not in your hands to be single. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not found you the right person. But they ridicule you and they criticize you for being single. Or for being divorced. You got divorced. You ruined your marriage. Your marriage was a failure because of your attitude, because of your akhlaq. They ridicule you for, your status of being married, being single, being divorced. Or they criticize your spouse. Your wife did this, your wife did that. Your husband did this, your husband did that. Or they criticize your children. Your parents, your siblings, they criticize your children. Your children do this, they do that, they go out, they stay up at night, this is how they dress, this is how they do their hair. They constantly criticize you for your children. Or they criticize your children or your spouse. Or they're consistently critical of what you do. Your job, your achievement, your career. They're always critical. They're always verbally abusive. Now, these family members, they could be parents. It could be a mother. It could be a father. It could be a brother. It could be a sister. It could be an aunt or uncle. It could be cousins that are portraying toxic behavior and being verbally and emotionally abusive. Let's come to parents first. وصلوا على محمد وآل محمد. We all know how much parents love their children. This is biological. You see, the Quran teaches children, reminds children of their parents. يوصيكم الله ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه. ووصينا الإنسان. Why? Because children, they need to be reminded to take care of parents. But do parents need a reminder to take care of their children? No. Yes, the verse says, well, يوصيكم الله في أولادكم. This is regarding inheritance. Otherwise, does a mother ever need a reminder to take care of her son or daughter? No. A father, does he need a reminder to take care of their children? No. This is biological. Biological. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put it in our system to take care of our children. Thus, all parents love their children. You won't find parents that do not love their children. But the problem is, how do they portray their love? How do they show their love? No one questions that parents love their children. They are willing to do anything. They are willing to sacrifice their life for their children. There are lots of parents who sacrifice their lives, their time, their health, their wealth. They're willing to do anything for their children. However, some parents are not effective in showing that love. They don't know how to show their love. They're not effective. Some think that if they spend their money on their children, that is their way of showing love. Buying you gifts, giving you a credit card, buying you a car, paying for your mortgage, that is love. For them, love means to spend. A blank check, an open check. That is the way they translate their love. Of course, spending on your children, this is wonderful. There's nothing better than spending on your children. At the end of the day, why do we need our money for? Our money, if we don't spend it on our children during our lives, they will spend it after our lives. So to spend it in our lifetime on them, this is good. However, this is not the only way to portray love. This is not the only way to show love. Our children don't just need our money and our credit card and for us to buy them cards. They need real love, emotional love, for it to be portrayed in words, in expressions, in advice, in being there for us, being supportive of the decisions that we make, whether it's regarding marriage, whether it's regarding the career that we take, the path that we take in our life, for our parents to stand by our side. That is love. That is the love that we need. It's not just money. There are some children, they don't want our money. Here, this is the line of opportunity. They can go out and make a living. They can make more money than we offer them. They want something more valuable than money. That is our love, our support, our affection, our time. To spend time with our family members, with our children. To be understanding. To understand our children's pains and challenges and agonies. That's love. Especially when it comes to two issues, marriage and career. To understand their challenges when it comes to marriage. You know, there are some parents, they insist on a specific spouse. They tell their children, if you don't marry her, if you don't marry your cousin, I disavow you. I have nothing to do with you. This is abusive. This is abusive behavior. This is toxic behavior. Let the children decide. Yes, you can guide, but you cannot force. Also, when it comes to careers, you want to force your children to accept certain careers. No. It's for them to decide. You can guide, you can advise, but to force them to accept certain careers and ridicule for them for their career, this is unacceptable. This is toxic. This is abusive. Let me tell you a story. There's a scholar, alim, here in the United States. I won't mention his name. I read this in his autobiography. He says, in one city, and I won't mention the name of the city, he said, one night during the month of Ramadan, I was invited for iftar. So during iftar, he says, typically, I do not ask my host, what do they do for a living? But that night, for some reason, I asked my host, what do you do for a living? So he started smiling. He said, Sayyid, I own a liquor shop. This alim, he said, I was eating, I felt disgusted. I could no longer continue eating. He said, but khalas. At the end of the day, I'm his guest. What am I supposed to say? After iftar, the host's daughter, she came and she brought tea. So the host, he said, Sayyid, ask my daughter what she does for a living. I said, astaghfirullah, if he sells liquor, God knows what his daughter does. So he said, I was worried, should I ask, should I not ask? So he said, ask, Sayyid, ask her what she does for a living. So I told her, what do you do for a living? She said, I'm a nurse for kittens, for cats. So the father started laughing. He said, Sayyid, have you heard of a job more ridiculous than this? She's a nurse for kittens. So he said, I looked at him. I told him, but at least it's a halal means of rizq. Even if you think this is ridiculous, at least it's halal. What you do is haram. And the money that you're making is haram. Some parents, they're very critical of their children. She wants to be a nurse for kittens. Maybe that's not something that interests you, but it interests her. Why not? It's a halal means of living. As long as it's halal, that's fine. My dear friends, any means of living, as long as it is halal, it is not haram, there's no shame in it. There's no shame in it. Work is work. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us to work in this life. As long as it is halal, there's no shameful job. If you're making a living for your family, for your relatives, for your wife, for your children, good for you. You should be proud of yourself. Don't let anyone tell you that your job is shameful. or it's not appropriate. No, as long as you're making a halal means of rizq, you should be proud of it, no matter what it is. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, some parents can be very abusive in their tone. And a lot of times, my dear friends, let's be honest, a lot of times in our lectures, we talk to children about respect for their parents, how much you have to obey your parents, respect your parents, be kind to them, be careful how you speak to them, and that is all correct. But what about the parents? Sometimes they have to be reminded of how they speak to their children. Sometimes they can display abusive behavior. Sometimes the way they speak to their children is very toxic. I've seen some parents, the words that they choose, they're very damaging, very hurtful. I've seen some parents that tell their children, I'm disappointed in you. You're an embarrassment to the family. I'm ashamed of you. I regret spending my money on you. You're a shame to the family. You should be embarrassed of yourself. Why? Why? These words are very toxic. They're very abusive. They hurt. Or I didn't raise you properly. I wasted my time on you. Why? This could do a lot of damage. I understand that some children, and when I mean children, I don't mean, 3 or 4, no. Because in the eyes of our parents, even if we reach 90 years old, we're still children. Nuh alayhi salam, the day that the flood came, he called his son, Ya bunay, irkab ma'ana. You know how old his son was? 500 years old. He calls him my dear boy, my young boy, my child. Nuh was 950, his son was 500 years old. But in the eyes of his father, he's still a little child, right? But it doesn't give you the right to speak to them abusively. Because these words, my dear friends, they will not be forgotten, believe me. Believe me. When anyone tells us hurtful words, we will remember them. They will be registered here and in here. We will never forget them. Words can leave scars and marks forever. There's a verse of poetry in Arabic, a line of poetry that says, جراحات السنان لها التئام وهل يلتئم ما جرح اللسان. It means that the wounds of spears, they will heal over time. But will the wounds of the tongue ever heal? The wounds of tongues, they do not heal. I bet you, I'm sure that all of us, we've heard harsh words, critical words, abusive words that we remember after 10 years. Someone said to us something that was very abusive, very damaging, we still remember it. After 20 years, 30 years, decades will pass, but we'll remember those words. They still hurt us. In English, there's a saying, a famous saying that says, bricks and stones will break my bones, but words can never harm me. This is not true. This is not true. In fact, bricks and stones, they will hurt me. They will break my bones, but after 6 months, my bones will be fine. But the words will leave everlasting impressions. They will damage us. We have to be very careful. When you get upset, when you get angry, your child has done something wrong, they've broken something, they've done something that requires punishment. But be careful of the words that come out of your mouth, because those words can put them down. If you tell them, I'm embarrassed of you, you're ashamed, there's no good that will ever come of you. A lot of our, especially in our culture, these words, they're cheap. They don't cost anything. They come out freely. No good will ever come of you. Why? Don't ever say that about a person, that no good will ever come out of you. No, there will always be good in a person. Instead, we have to be encouraging. Sigmund Freud, the famous psychologist Sigmund Freud, and with all of his theories, all of his weird theories, they say that when he was a child, his father would tell him, no good will ever come of you. And he spent decades in proving his father wrong. All of his achievements, his theories, the way he analyzes everything and he interprets everything in a sexual manner. He spent decades to make accomplishments just to prove that his father was wrong. Because his father, when he was young, he would always tell him, no good will ever come of you. This is wrong. I know several people that moved out of the house, stopped speaking to their parents because their parents were very verbally abusive. Not physically, but verbally abusive. They left the home. They decided on leaving the house. They said, enough is enough. I can no longer tolerate. طيب. My dear friends, if our children do not live up to our expectations, a part of it is whom? Who carries the responsibility? A part of it is our responsibility. If my son or daughter do not live up to my expectations, I carry some of the burden. I carry some of the responsibility. Maybe I did not set a good example. Maybe I did not teach them well. I did not guide them properly. I should not put the blame just on them. I carry some of the burden. I carry some of the responsibility. As parents, we have to take responsibility if our children do not live up to our expectations. Also, there is no need for toxicity, my friends. Toxic behavior, abusive behavior, there's no need. There's no need. Personally, I believe the most successful parents are the parents that are friends with their children. They're friends. Where their children can come and confide to them, trust them, speak to them like friends. Of course, you have to keep that respect. Respect. At the end of the day, your father can be a friend, but he's your father. And your mother, she can be a friend, but at the end of the day, she's your mother. You have to keep that respect. But it's so beautiful when children can speak to their parents like friends and chat with them and confide in them and feel comfortable with them and tell them about their challenges and their pains and agonies. We can have real discussions, gentle discussions, quiet discussions, comforting discussions with our children. It doesn't have to be so toxic all the time. It doesn't have to be so abusive all the time. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Another problem, my dear friends, another problem that a lot of parents deal with, especially for migrant parents, and this is me, this is you, this is a lot of our parents and us who migrated to this country. We try to live through our children. We try to live through our children. What do I mean by this? For example, I wasn't able to go to college, but I want my son to go to college. Why? Because I wasn't able to go to college. My dream was to go to Harvard University, for example, but I didn't get in. So I pressure my son to go to Harvard University. This is not correct. Just because I was not able to achieve. I had certain dreams that I couldn't achieve. Why do I have to force my son or daughter to achieve my dreams? They have their dreams. They have their goals and their aspirations. I wanted to be a doctor, but I couldn't, so I pressure my son to become a doctor. Or I wanted to be a lawyer, but I couldn't, so I pressure my son to be a lawyer. This is a mistake. We have dreams. Our children have different dreams. If I wanted to be a doctor, maybe my son wants to be a lawyer. Maybe my son wants to be an engineer. I cannot live through my children. I cannot fulfill my dreams through my children. I have to let my children do their own. Or for example, some daughters, some ladies, they got married early. They didn't finish high school. They didn't go to college. They got married. They had children. They got pregnant. But they want their daughter to study, to go to college, not get married. That was your dream. Now you have to let your daughter make her own decisions. Whether she wants to pursue her degree or get married, that's up to her. You cannot live through your children. You cannot fulfill your dreams through your children. You already had your chance. We had our chance. We either used it, we made use of it, or we didn't. Now we have to give our children their chance. It's their life now, their decisions, their goal, their dreams. We cannot expect them to fulfill our dreams in their way. That's not possible. Yes, we can guide. I can tell my children that I wish for you to, for example, to become a doctor or a alim or a professor. I would love that for you, but I cannot pressure. At the end of the day, it's their choice. I can pray for them. Look at the Quran. The Quran, we learn from the prophets. The prophets, they would say dua for their children. They didn't pressure them. They didn't force them. A minute ago, we mentioned Nuh alayhi salam. He didn't force his son to get on the ship. He showed him the way. He showed him the way. He told him, if you stay, you will drown. قال سآوي إلى جبل يعصمني من الماء. I will go to a mountain and I will be saved. He said, no, my son, you will not be saved. But could he force him? No. All of the prophets, they would pray for their children. رَبِّ اجْعَلْنِي مُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِي. Oh Allah, make me among those who establish salah and my children. You can pray for them. You can try to guide them. You can try to advise them. But you cannot force them. And you cannot live your life through them. You already had your chance. Now it's theirs. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. طيب. Now, there are some siblings that can be very toxic, that can be very abusive. Certain brothers, some sisters, they can be very abusive, verbally abusive. We're not talking about physical abuse. Physical abuse, that's a whole nother story. And there is absolutely no room for physical abuse in Islam. We're talking about verbal abuse, emotional abuse. Some siblings, there's envy between them, jealousy and envy, especially if one is more successful than the other. There will be some sort of tension, envy, and jealousy between them. Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, what happened with Prophet Yusuf? Prophet Yusuf had toxic brothers, had abusive brothers who were jealous of him and who were envious of him. That is why his father, Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. When Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam saw his dream and he came and he told his father about his dream, what did his father tell him? قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. Do not tell your dream to your brothers. فَيَكِيدُ لَكَ كَيْدًا. Because they will plan evil against you. Because sometimes there's envy between brothers and sisters. There's envy and jealousy. Some siblings, due to their own failures, they take out their anger on their brother or sister. Because they have shortcomings, they failed, maybe in their marriage, maybe in their social relations and connections, maybe in school, in college, in their business, in their career. They failed while their siblings, they were successful. They take out their anger on their siblings. And this is very normal. This is very normal. Envy between siblings is normal. If you have a sibling that is envious of you or jealous of you, don't think you're the only one. There were millions before you, and there will be millions after you that also had envious and jealous siblings. And you know, one of the ways that envy rises between siblings, when parents favor one child over another. This causes envy. There's usually a favorite, either the oldest or the youngest. If the parents, they show who's the favorite child, usually this causes envy and jealousy towards that child from the siblings. And this is exactly what happened with Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam and Yaqub alayhi salam. Yaqub, his favorite child was Yusuf, and he showed it. He showed his love and that his favorite son was Yusuf. This created animosity towards Yusuf alayhi salam. إِذْ قَالُوا, the Quran says in Surah Yusuf, إِذْ قَالُوا لَيُوسُفُ وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَخِينَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ إِنَّ أَبَانَا لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. They said that our father loves Yusuf more than us. And this caused animosity and envy between the brothers. And this envy and animosity, this envy and jealousy, it causes toxic behavior. It causes them to be abusive. Sometimes it's not envy or jealousy. Unfortunately, sometimes two brothers, there's no jealousy and envy between them, but they don't get along. Why? Because their wives don't get along. Because of their wives. I've seen several brothers that do not speak to each other. Why? Because there's a fight? No. There's envy between them? No. Because of their wives. Because the wives don't get along, they get the brothers not to speak. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes it's two sisters that don't get along. Why? Because of their husbands. And that's a shame. That's a shame for two siblings not to speak, not to work together, not to speak to one another, not to see each other because of the husband or the wife. Nothing should come in between two brothers or two sisters. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sometimes aunts and uncles can be toxic and can be abusive. Sometimes an uncle or an aunt, because of their failure or the failure of their children, they are envious of their nephews or nieces. And so they display toxic behavior, abusive behavior, because of, for example, the failure of their children. They could be very negative, very harsh, very critical of their nieces and nephews. Sometimes it's cousins. Sometimes abusive behavior comes from cousins. Also, perhaps due to envy or jealousy. Maybe because of their failures, of their lack of accomplishments, they're envious of their cousins who accomplished, who have children, who got married, who are successful in their business life and their academic life. This is very, very normal. And in the end, we will mention that even the Ahlul Bayt, prophets of Allah, the Imams, they had toxic family members. They had relatives that were very toxic, that were very abusive. طيب, now what do we do? If you're a person who has toxic family members, a father or a mother that is abusive, a brother or a sister who is abusive, an uncle or an aunt who is abusive, who is toxic, what do you do? The solution is in the following. There's only one solution, my dear friends. There's only one solution, and that is to be patient, to tolerate, to let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be the judge. This is the only solution that Islam offers. Islam tells us that we cannot cut off our ties with our family members, even if they're abusive. Yes, you don't have to visit them every day and go to their house every day and welcome them to your house every day, but to cut off ties, this is unacceptable. Islam says, repel evil with good deeds. لا تستوي الحسنة ولا السيئة. A bad deed is not equivalent to a good deed. A good deed is not equivalent to a bad. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن. Repel evil with kindness. You have a family member who's evil, who's being toxic, who's being abusive, show them kindness. Repel it with kindness. Show them support. Show them love. ادفع بالتي هي أحسن فإذا الذي بينك وبينه عداوة كأنه ولي حميم. When you show kindness, that animosity, that tension between you, it will go. It will fade. وَمَا يُلَقَّاهَا إِلَّا الَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا. And you cannot attain this status except with patience. Except with patience. Look at Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf alayhi salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Yusuf, after what his brothers did to him, in history, have we ever heard about a person who had worse brothers than Yusuf alayhi salam? No, he had the worst brothers on earth. First they decided on killing him, and then they threw him in a well, and they did away with him. And then after so many years, they came to Egypt and they met him. After all of this, what does Yusuf say? قَالَ لَا تَثْرِيبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمِ يَغْفِرُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ. No crime, nothing. I don't hold anything in my heart towards you. Allah will forgive you. Allah shall forgive you. This is what we learn from the prophets. This is what we learn from the Ahlul Bayt. Allah says, forgive and forget. Be patient. وَلَمَنْ صَبَرَ وَغَفَرَ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ لَمِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. Those who are patient and forgive. Those who learn to forgive. To learn to forgive others, family members. Learn to forgive. I remember I was at a retreat with youth several years ago, and the topic was toxic parents. And I remember a lot of youth, they were complaining of their parents. Complaining of their parents. And I was trying to tell them, you have to forgive. You have to forgive. No matter what your parents do, no matter how toxic they are, no matter how abusive they are, they have to forgive. And it seemed like I was not able to convey the message until I said the following story. وَصَلَّى عَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ وَعَلَى مُحَمَّدٍ. Sayyid Abu al-Hasan al-Isfahani, this grand marja', who was the top marja' of his time. Before As-Sayyid al-Hakim, before As-Sayyid al-Khoi and As-Sayyid al-Hakim, there was As-Sayyid Abu al-Hasan al-Isfahani in the city of Najaf, in the holy city of Najaf. As-Sayyid Abu al-Hasan al-Isfahani one day was leading salah in the shrine of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And his eldest son, if I'm not mistaken, his name is Sayyid Hassan, was standing behind him in the shrine of Imam Ali alayhi salam, in the month of Ramadan and on the 19th of Ramadan. Imagine, during Salah, an individual comes and he slays the son of Sayyid Abu al-Hasan al-Isfahani in the middle of Salah. Not only does he slay him, but he cuts off his head. He cuts off his head. Who? It was a sheikh, a student of the Hawza, but he had mental health issues. The Sayyid, imagine the Sayyid finishes his salah, he turns around and he sees his eldest son is dead. Not only is he dead, but his head is cut off. SubhanAllah. That sheikh tries to run away. He tries to escape, they capture him. At night, when the Sayyid is at home, he's mourning the loss of his eldest son. He's sitting with his wife, his children. They come and tell him, Sayyid, we have caught the sheikh. And if you want us to execute him, we will execute him right now. Look at what the Sayyid says. He says in Farsi, he says, what is translated to English, he says, I cannot bear losing two sons in the same day. The killer of his son, he considers him his own son. He says, I cannot handle losing two children in one day. No, do not. Do not kill him. Forgiveness. This is forgiveness. If a person can forgive the killer of his own son, we cannot forgive our mother or father or for being abusive or for saying a word or two that upset us or hurt us. Forgiveness, my dear friends. وَلِمَنْ صَبَرَ وَغَفَرَ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ. طيب. The hadith says, صِلْ مَنْ قَطَعَكَ وَأَحْسِنْ إِلَى مَنْ أَسَاءَ إِلَيْكَ. Have a good tie with someone who cut off their ties with you. You have a cousin that doesn't call you, you call them. You have a brother that doesn't speak to you, you speak to them. You have parents that are abusive to you, you be good to them. Another hadith says, عَاتِبْ أَخَاكَ الْمُؤْمِنِ بِالْإِحْسَانِ إِلَيْهِ. You want to punish someone? You want to punish someone dearly? Make them really pay? Be kind to them. Look at how much they will regret being evil to you. Because when I do something bad to someone and they return the bad behavior to me, it could affect me, it could not affect me. But if I'm abusive towards someone and that someone is kind to me, that will kill me inside. I will feel remorse. I will feel regret that what did I do to this person? This person did not, he did not deserve for me to treat them in this way. These are the teachings of Islam, my dear friends. So let's go back to the first question. Should we cut off ties with family members? Absolutely not. Here in the West, it's very normal for a son not to speak to his father for 10 years. You know, you've heard the term an estranged father. I never knew. I didn't understand. Estranged father. How could that be? Yes, indeed. A father that doesn't see his son or daughter for 20 years. Or an estranged mother. A mother that doesn't see their children for 5 years, 10 years. This is normal. But in Islam, this is not normal. This is not normal. To cut off ties with family members, not to speak with them, to delete them, to block them. This is not normal. This is unacceptable. Never cut off ties with family members, no matter how abusive they are. Keep that tie, because one day or another, they'll come back. They'll come back to their reason. Especially if you show kindness to them, they will show remorse and they will come back. There's a hadith that I'd like to read you by Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. A beautiful hadith, a beautiful hadith. He says, لما سأله جهم ibn Hamid. Juham ibn Hamid, one of the companions of Imam Sadiq, he says, يكون لي القرابة على غير أمري ألهم علي حق. He says, I have family members that are not Muslim. They have not accepted the truth. They are not Muslim. Do they have any rights upon me? The Imam says, Na'am, of course. Of course they have rights upon you. حق الرحم لا يقطعه شيء. The right of family members, nothing can eradicate that. Nothing can eradicate that. وَإِذَا كَانُوا عَلَىٰ أَمْرِكَ كَانَ لَهُمْ حَقًّان. And if they follow your religion, if they are Muslim, then they have two rights. The right of them being Muslim and the right of them being your relatives. If you have a relative that is not a Muslim or not a follower of Ahlul Bayt, it doesn't mean that you can cut off your ties with them. That's not a justification just because they do not follow your religion or your school of thought. If they are Muslim or they follow the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt, yes, they have even more rights. But if they're not, doesn't mean that they don't have rights. Another hadith narrated by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. He says, إن الرجل ليصل رحمه وما بقي من عمره إلا ثلاثة أيام. He says a person has 3 days remaining in his life. But because he has a good tie with family members, he picks up the phone, calls the family members, goes and visits a family member, sends in Western Union money to a distant relative, a relative that lives in a distant area that's in need. فَيُنْسِئُهُ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ 30 سَنَةً. Allah will turn the 3 days into 30 years. Into 30 years. And on the contrary, وَإِنَّ الرَّجُلْ لَيَقْطَعُ الرَّحِمِ. And if a man cuts off his ties, وَقَدْ بَقِيَ مِنْ عُمُرِهِ 30 سَنَةً. And he was destined to live for 30 years, فَيُصَيِّرُهُ اللَّهُ إِلَى 3 أيام. Allah will make the 30 years into 3 days. Because of cutting off your family ties. Nothing prolongs the life of a person like Salat al-Rahim. You want a long life? Have a close tie with family members. Parents, siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, even distant relatives, second cousin, third cousins. Have close ties with them. Pick up the phone, call them, send them money if they're in need, visit them, ask about them. It doesn't cost you anything. There were prophets who had toxic family members. There were imams who had toxic family members. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, his uncle Abu Lahab. Abu Lahab was an abusive uncle. He was a toxic uncle. He disbelieved in Rasulullah. He rejected him. He called him a liar. And he was the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, his cousin Zubayr. Az-Zubayr led an army against Imam Ali alayhi salam. Az-Zubayr was the cousin of Imam Ali. They were cousins. But he was a toxic cousin. He was an abusive cousin who led an army against Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why? Because he expected Imam Ali to give him a job, to give him a political position. And Amir al-Mu'mineen, his administration was not based on who's related to him. If it's his cousin or nephew, no. It was based on criteria. It was based on merit, not based on blood ties. That's why he rejected. He did not give Zubayr any position, as Zubayr leads an army against Imam Ali alayhi salam. طيب, Al-Imam Musa ibn Ja'far alayhi salam with his nephew Ali ibn Ismail. Ali ibn Ismail, the nephew of Al-Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, he goes to Harun and he says, Assalamu alayk, ya Harun. He says, why do you not call me Amir al-Mu'mineen? He said, there are two Amir al-Mu'mineens on earth. He said, who's the second? He said, my uncle, Musa ibn Ja'far. He claims to be the Khalifa. Then he receives money and he's preparing an army. And he led to the demise of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. He led to the poisoning of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. His own nephew. His own nephew. And also, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far with his own brother Abdullah. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, his eldest son, Abdullah al-Aftah. He was the eldest of Imam al-Sadiq, but the imam did not come to him. It went to Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. Out of envy and jealousy towards his brother, Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, Abdullah was toxic. He claimed imamah for himself. He did not say that the true imam is Imam Musa ibn Ja'far. He claimed imamah for himself. This is the brother of an imam. طيب. And in Ashura, you have Umar bin Sa'd. Umar bin Sa'd was the cousin of Imam Hossein alayhi salam and the cousin of Amir al-Mu'mineen. They were related. They were blood relatives. But what good did this relation do? When Umar bin Sa'd leads an army against Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And finally, another toxic relative, Shimr ibn al-Jawshan. Shimr ibn al-Jawshan was a relative of whom? Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, salamullahi alayhi. That is why on the night of Ashura, he came in the middle of the battlefield, he came to the tents of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he began to shout, Ayna banu ukhtina? Where are my nephews? Meaning Al-Abbas and his brothers. Because Shimr ibn al-Jawshan was from the same tribe as al-Banin. They were from the same tribe. So he came out and said, Ayna banu ukhtina? Ayna al-Abbas wa ikhwatih? Where's Al-Abbas? Where are the brothers of Al-Abbas? Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas did not reply. Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, reply to him. He's your family member. He's your family member. Ajibhu walau kana kafiran. Reply to him even if he is a kafir. Reply to him. So Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas came out. He said, what do you want? He said, laka al-aman. You have peace. I guarantee you peace from Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. You and your brothers, you will not be killed. If you join our army, you will not be killed. Laka al-aman. What was the reply of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? He told him, لَعَنَكَ اللَّهُ وَلَعَنَ أَمَانِكَ. May Allah curse you and curse your peace. أَتُؤَمِّنُنِي وَابْنُ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ لَا أَمَانَ لَهُ. You give me peace and the son of Rasulullah does not have peace. Does not have aman. You are making me happy. You think you are making me happy by bringing me peace? And the son of Rasulullah does not have aman? لَعَنَكَ اللَّهُ وَلَعَنَ أَمَانَكَ. This was Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. If Yusuf alayhi salam had 11 brothers who conspired against him, Imam Hussein had one brother that is worthier than 11 brothers. One brother that is equivalent to an army. When Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam sought permission to enter the battlefield, he was the only one remaining. All of the men had gone. All of the companions had gone. Habib ibn Mudahir, Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, Ali al-Akbar, al-Qasim, all of them had gone. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas was remaining, the only one. When he came and sought permission to enter the battlefield, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he told him, Akhi Abu al-Fadl, anta sahibu liwa'i. You are the carrier of my flag. فَإِذَا مَضَيْتَ تَمَزَّقَ عَسْكَرِي تَفَرَّقَ عَسْكَرِي. If you are gone, my army will go. That means Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas was an army by himself. Imam Hussein considered him an army. He said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, let me go. He would always speak to Imam Hussein with utmost respect, always calling him Ya ibn Rasulullah, oh the son of Rasulullah, oh the son of Rasulullah. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas knew who his imam is. He treated Imam Hussein not like a brother, but as an imam. As an imam. He told him, let me go and seek my vengeance from these la'am. The imam refused. He said, then at least let me go bring some water for the children. I have promised the children from some water. The imam tells him, go. بأبي أنت اركب بنفسي أنت يا أخي. Go, my brother, may your brother be a sacrifice for you. May I sacrifice for my life for you. Imagine Imam Hussein is telling his brother, may I be a sacrifice for you. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas gets on his horse. He enters the battlefield. The enemy soldiers, they all disperse, remembering his father, Imam Ali, imagining that it is Imam Ali entering the battlefield. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas goes to the river. He takes some water to drink. All of a sudden, he remembers the thirsty children shouting, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. He drops the water and he says, يا نفس من بعد الحسين هوني وبعده لا كنت أن تكوني وتشربين بارد المعين تالله ما هذا فعال ديني ولا فعال صاحب اليقين. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas fills the water jug. He's about to come back. Enemy soldiers surround him from every direction. Some with swords, some with spears, others with arrows. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, his right hand is cut off. He begins to recite, Wallahi in qata'tumu yamini inni uhami abadan an dini wa an imamin sadiq al-yaqini najl al-nabiy al-tahir al-amini. He carries the water jug with his left hand until his left hand is also cut off. He carries the water jug with his teeth. An arrow comes and hits the water jug. The water spills. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas loses all hope. Another arrow hits Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Harmala shoots Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas in his right eye. He loses his eye. And then a wicked soldier hits Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas with a pole on his head. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas falls on the ground, face first. The arrow crushes in his eye. Then he shouts, Akhi Aba Abdullah, adrik akhak. For the first time in his life, he says, my brother, come to your brother's rescue. Imam Hussein comes. He sees the two hands on the ground, the flag on the ground, the water jug on the ground. He sees Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas lying there with the arrow in his eye. He says, Akhi al-an inkasara dhahri. وشمت بي عدوي وقلت حيلتي. My brother, now is my back is broken. Now my enemy rejoices. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas first did not know who this is. He said, Ya hada billahi alayk. I swear to you upon Allah, do not finish me until my brother comes to me. He told him, Akhi Abu al-Fadl, this is your brother. I am your brother. Imam Hussein sits next to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. He holds his head. He puts it in his lap. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas moves his head. And another time, Imam Hussein grabs the head of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. He puts it in his head. Abu al-Fadl removes 2-3 times. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas keeps on moving his head. Imam Hussein tells him, why, my dear brother? Why do you remove your head from my lap? Let me enjoy having your head in my lap. He said, Akhi, Aba Abdullah, in an hour from now, you will have your head in whose lap? إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. نسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العلي الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا الله. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا إلا غفرته ولا هما إلا فرجته ولا عيبا إلا سترته ولا خوفا إلا آمنته ولا رزقا إلا بسطته ولا شملا إلا جمعته ولا مرضا إلا شفيته ولا غائبا إلا حفظته وأدنيته ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا والآخرة لك فيها رضا ولنا فيها صلاح إلا قضيتها ويسرتها يا أرحم الراحمين. ولأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نقرأ سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
Ya Hossein, Ya Hossein, Ya Hossein. قید سے چھٹ کے جو پہنچے تھے حرم کرب و بلا، قید سے چھٹ کے جو پہنچے تھے حرم کرب و بلا، قبر شبیر پہ زینب نے کیا یہ نوحہ، کیا یہ نوحہ، قید سے ہو کے رہا شاہ زمن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، قید سے ہو کے رہا شاہ زمن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، میرا عباس دلاور ہے کہاں ماں کرماں، علی اکبر ہے کہاں جھولے والا، علی اصغر ہے کہاں یہ بتاؤ، ہے کہاں ابن حسن، قید سے ہو کے رہا چاہے اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، میرا عباس دلاور ہے کہاں ماں کا ارماں، علی اکبر ہے کہاں جھولے والا، علی اصغر ہے کہاں یہ بتاؤ، ہے کہاں ابن حسن، قید سے ہو کے رہا شاہ زمن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، ہو کے آزاد بہن آئی ہے، دیکھو برباد بہن آئی ہے، بھائی ناشاد بہن آئی ہے، دے نہ پائی جو تمہیں رن میں کفن، قید سے کہ رہا شاہ زمن، ہے بہن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی، ہائے کہتی تھی یہ رو رو مضطر، سر سے چھینی گئی میری چادر، تیری جاگی میں علی اکبر، مجھ سے امت سے ملے رنج و محن، قید سے ہو کے رہا شاہ اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن اربعین کرنے کو، تازیانوں کے نشاں بازو پر، زخم نیزوں کے لیے پہلو پر، دھول رستے کی رقے ابرو پر، دیکھو ہاتھوں میں لیے داغ رسن، قید ہو کے رہا شاد اربعین کرنے کو، کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن اربعین کر، خاک بالوں پہ اڑانے والی، رنج امت سے اٹھانے والی، آئی ہے آنسو بہانے والی، کیسے جاتی تیرے بن بھائی وطن، قید ہو کے رہا شاید کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن اربعین کرنے کو آئی، سینہ زن گر یا کنا نوحہ بلب، در بدر خاک بسر غم کے سبب، بھائی کی قبر سے لپٹی زینب، ضبط کے ٹوٹ گئے سب بندھن، قید سے ہو کے رہا ہے زمن اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن اربعین، بولی زینب وہ حزینہ بھائی، یاد کرتی تھی مدینہ بھائی، نہ رہی تیری سکینہ بائی، کھا گئی قید کی بچی کو گٹھن، قید ہو کے رہا شاہ زمن آئی ہے بہن اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن اربعین کر، رو کے زینب نے کہا یہ بن میں آگ بچی کے لگی دامن میں، لٹ گئی میری کمائی رن میں، میرے بے سر میرے پامال بدن، قید ہو کے رہا بہن اربعین کرنے کو ہے بہن اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن اربعین کرنے کو، تازیانوں سے ستائے گئے ہم، ہر قدم خون رلائے گئے ہم، ہر قدم خون رلائے گئے ہم، در بدر بھائی پھرائے گئے ہم، سر کھلے بھیڑ میں پابند رسن، قید سے اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن اربعین کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن اربعین کرنے کو، ایک ایک قبر پہ زینب کا سلام، کشتہ صبر پہ زینب کا سلام، لشکر صبر پہ زینب کا سلام، ہائے جو مارے گئے تشنہ دہن، قید سے ہے زمن، ایک ایک قبر پہ زینب کا سلام، کشتہ جب پہ زینب کا سلام، لشکر صبر پہ زینب کا سلام، ہائے جو مارے گئے تشنہ دہن، قید سے ہو عربئی کرنو، آخری شعر، عربئی کرنے کو آئی ہے بہن، عربئی زخم دروں کے دکھاؤں کیا کیا، مظہر حق ہو بتاؤں کیا کیا، بھائی احوال سناؤں کیا کیا، نوحہ زینب کا یہی تھا ایسر، قید ہو کے رہا شاہ زمن،
اکبر کا لہو شے کی ابا تک پہنچ گیا، اکبر کا لہو شے کی ابا تک پہنچ گیا، اکبر کا لہو شے کی ابا تک پہنچ گیا، اکبر کا لہو شے کی ابا تک پہنچ گیا، اکبر کا لہو شیکی ابا تک پہنچ گیا 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 दस्तार से वो माँ की, दस्तार से वो माँ की विदा तक पहुँच गया। अकबर का लहू शहदी आवाज़ तक पहुँच गया। अकबर का लहू शहदी आवाज़ तक पहुँच गया। हाय लैला ये रो के कहती थी अकबर कहाँ हो तो, लैला ये रो के कहती थी अकबर कहाँ हो तो, साले का हाथ मेरे, साले का हाथ मेरे विदा तक पहुँच गया। अकबर का लहू शहदी आवाज़ 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 तक पहुँच गया। आवाज़ गन से आई कि बाबा मैं गिर पड़ा। आवाज़ गन से आई कि बाबा मैं गिर पड़ा। गिरता हुआ हुसैन, गिरता हुआ हुसैन सदा तक पहुँच गया। अकबर का लहू शहदी आवाज़ 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 तक पहुँच गया। हाय सीने में नेज़ा तोड़ के कहता था ये लड़े, सीने में नेज़ा तोड़ के कहता था ये लड़े। देखो हुसैन अपने, देखो हुसैन अपनी कज़ा तक पहुँच गया। अकबर का लहू शहदी आवाज़ 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 तक पहुँच गया। हाय जिस हाथ ने गिराया था हम शाद मुस्तफा, जिस हाथ ने गिराया था हम शाद मुस्तफा, नेज़ा लिए वो हाथ, नेज़ा लिए वो हाथ निदा तक पहुँच गया। अकबर का लहू शहदी आवाज़ तक पहुँच गया।
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس السلام عليك أنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض توس روحي وجسمي لك الفداء السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان الأمان 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 السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن السلام عليك إمام هذا أجر الله تعالى فرجك وسهل مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته